parte de la población mundial se viste con ropa de segunda mano.
If second-hand clothing is wrongly classified as waste, it could reduce exports to Africa and other markets. It will mean reduced supply of affordable clothing for millions of households.
The new EU regulations for the management of textile waste in Europe may cause a short-term decrease in the export of high-quality used textiles, affecting regions such as Africa, Central America, where the consumption of second-hand clothing is of vital importance for their population. It is essential to review how these textile collections and recycling policies in Europe can create a disruption in the international trade of used clothing, which is also a source of employment for millions of people.
The centre of circularity in the textile industry is what we do already. There is no circularity in the fashion supply chain, so it's absolutely essential that our industry is engaged in this process. It's really important that we try to reuse as much clothing as possible. Buying a reusable item is 70 times less impactful on the environment than buying brand new clothing. When we have media focusing on relatively small issues on a global scale and they're going, oh, this is terrible what's happening in the used clothing industry in a particular part of the world, what they're actually doing is potentially undermining confidence in what is by far the most sustainable part of the global clothing supply chain and actually promoting as much reuse as possible.
The work that the used clothing sector has been doing worldwide is of vital importance for the care of the planet, considerably reducing pollution caused by producing textiles. 91.5% of Kenyan households use secondhand clothing, and 2 million people are directly employed in this sector. It is essential that the collection and export of secondhand garments continues.
These regulations would affect international markets. When you are looking at Africa in terms of second-hand clothing, you are looking at what I call livelihoods. For example, if second-hand clothing is wrongly classified as waste, it could reduce exports to Africa and other markets. It means threats to local jobs in sorting, resale, and it also means that there will be economic impact on micro and small enterprises that would normally depend on second-hand clothing markets. However, if properly implemented, these laws could strengthen our industry, and that probably can give some credibility as partners in sustainable textile management.
Actually Africans that are demanding the used clothing and importing it into those countries. When people who have knowledge of this industry have taken a look going into a particular country, they do a detailed waste compositional analysis. The constant message is that actually what is in that bale is at least 98% product. And in the world of recycling, a contamination rate of 1 or 2% is within the normal parameters. This notion that somehow the world's fast fashion ends up being sent to Africa and then eventually ending up in landfill sites in Africa, I'm afraid is very far removed from the truth.
La gran parte de la población mundial vive en países menos desarrollados y se viste con ropa de segunda mano. Primero, porque existe una red de comercio local. Lo segundo es que se ha vendido históricamente ropa con mucha durabilidad. Y la tercera es el factor precio. Humana lleva exportando ropa usada para ser reutilizada desde los años 80. Nosotros defendemos que hay mucho espacio para la ropa de segunda mano, sobre todo en África, y es por eso que lo defendemos, porque lo conocemos.
Europeans send more than 5.2 million tons of clothing and footwear every year to landfills or to be incinerated. Textile sorting centers are therefore essential to control the quality of the garments, as well as categorizing and distributing them internationally, according to the needs of each country. The ultimate goal is to ensure that no textiles are thrown away. The classification of garments varies depending on color, condition, material, gender, and even climate. Between 70% and 90% of discarded clothing in Europe can be reused and recycled.
Currently, we have the sorting center, and then we have 170 shops. For now, we are about 1,600 people working in Textile House 25 years of sorting means we have huge experience in grading the clothes so we can deliver to all our shops and provide good clothes for good prices for all our many customers. The original which we purchase from all over Europe is for sure not the same quality, because now what you can buy is totally different as it was 10-15 years ago. Still, it is possible to reuse between 70 up to 75%. We are working with partners to sell all the rest of the clothes.
La industria de la ropa usada lo que genera es una circularidad de los textiles y por lo tanto los nuevos marcos deberían apoyarla en lugar de perjudicarla. Estas nuevas regulaciones de la responsabilidad ampliada del productor van a primar que la clasificación de la ropa recogida selectivamente se haga lo más localmente posible. Sin embargo, si dejamos una regulación un poco más amplia, que prime algo local pero que permita clasificar ropa en otros continentes, quizás sería mejor opción. Y otro ejemplo muy sencillo es fin de condición de residuo. En nuestro caso es muy fácil. Un clasificador nuestro decide con sus criterios de mercado que el residuo del contenedor pasa a ser producto porque puede ser vendido. Si esos criterios a nivel legal son muy complicados, puede ser que estemos perdiendo posibilidades de reutilizar productos porque a lo mejor le falta un botón. Nuestra experiencia dice que en un mercado como el mozambiqueño se va a poner el botón y va a servir perfectamente para ser reutilizado.
There are multiple companies collecting and classifying used clothing in Europe who are dedicated to the conscious management and distribution of secondhand clothing, either in thrift stores or exporting to other markets, constantly looking for a second life for millions of used garments. The report, The Socio-Economic Impact of Secondhand Clothing Industry in Africa and the EU 27, showed that 80% of used clothing exported by the EU is sold in informal markets in Africa. If the clothing cannot be distributed in stores and markets, they are entered into a recycling process with partners who convert the textiles into raw materials for new products. This is an example of the circular economy and environmentally responsible business.
But if the European Union were to say we want more people to buy used clothing within the EU, at the same time we're going to ban textiles from landfill and from incineration as well, what you're risking there is, in the meantime, you will have businesses and individuals in other parts of the world who want that used clothing but are no longer able to get it. They will have to get their clothing from other sources. They might have to buy cheap, ultra-fast fashion. And that is a real danger to the environment and also to job creation and economic opportunities for those already employed in the used clothing trade in those countries. And it wouldn't resolve the issue that some people hope it would.